Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hello there everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today I am super excited to dive into this Spellcraft series, starting with intent. As I said in the intro video, if you caught that one, the series will be led by my book. My book will be coming out in less than 2 weeks in the US and about 6 weeks later elsewhere, and this series will be following the main thread and theme throughout the book. I do recommend getting this book as extra reading material to follow along. It has far more information in it surrounding what I will be teaching, along with a lot of exercises and practical applications that will be really beneficial to helping you build a very strong foundation in Spellcraft. But the goal of the series is to have an additional video aid for those of you that learn a little bit better this way, and just to create a more well-rounded way of knowledge. Plus, I think it's way more fun. Now, of course, my book isn't out at the point that this video is being posted, so this information is still valuable to you without the book. I do recommend it if you're able to get your hands on it, but if you don't have it, don't worry, you will be able to follow through this video without it. It's really just additional supplemental information, or this video kind of is to the book. But if you're watching this after the book has come out and you have it in your hands, as we're talking about intent, you can find this on page 23. This chapter has a lot of information to cover and a lot of applications and practices within it that I will not be covering in this video. So I do recommend giving it a read before or after this video, depending on what feels most comfortable to you. Or again, if all you have access to right now is the video, then that's perfectly fine. Now, before we get too deep into this video is sponsored. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace is a website building and hosting company, and as I'm currently working on putting up a website, it is very exciting to get to partner with them. With Fluid Engine, a next-generation website design system from Squarespace, it's never been easier for anyone to unlock creative design. You get to start with a best-in-class website template and customize every detail with reimagined drag-and-drop technology for desktop or mobile. You can stretch your imagination when it comes to online design with Fluid Engine, built in and ready to go on any new Squarespace site. One thing I really love about Squarespace is their flexible website template. You get to get started with one of their professional website templates with designs for every category and use case. Then customize your look, update the content, and add features to fit your unique needs. You can make any Squarespace template do what you want, so your idea, brand, or business stands out online on every device and can be as unique to you as you dream. Another thing that I really love about Squarespace is the ease of working an online store. Whether you sell physical, digital, or service products, Squarespace has the tools you need to start selling online. So if this sounds interesting to you, go to squarespace.com/thegreenwitch to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring, and let's get back to the video. Alrighty, welcome back. Let's sink our teeth into intent. If you've been practicing witchcraft for a while, if you just started yesterday, or if it's something that you've been thinking about for a while, you have probably heard of intent. It's a word that is said all the time when it comes to spellcraft. Know what your intent is, hone in on your intent, imbue your intent. It is everywhere, but you may not really know what intent actually is. What does that word mean, and why is it being said all the time? Honestly, I struggled to define intent cleanly until I worked on writing this book. Prior to that, I had a good understanding of it, but putting it to words was hard to do. Because ultimately it is kind of this loose concept that's hard to put perfectly into one box. But I'm pretty happy with the definition I have come up with. Like I said, we hear this term intent often when we're talking about spell work and just witchcraft in general. And at its base, it's pretty easy to understand. Intent is the intention or desire that we place behind spells. Common intentions include protection, cleansing, healing, happiness, calm, anything that you maybe would want to do a general spell for. So a protection wreath, the intent would be protection. You could get a little bit more specific, saying to protect the threshold or protect the home, or something like a calming tea. I've made calming teas before. I have a recipe that I love. The base intention of that is calm. It could be more specific to calm anxiety or calm stress. Really, it's up to you how specific an intention gets. But in general, the base meaning of intent is that desire or purpose of a spell. And to some extent, intentions can be limitless. However, it does go deeper than just that surface understanding of purpose and desire. Intent, when worked with in Spellcraft, is more than just this intention. That purpose serves as the base of intent. It defines the spell and gives it a path. But when we actively engage with intent and work with it in a spell, it becomes more than just this goal. It is the energy that we put into the spell, the energy of the ingredients we've chosen, and the energy of nature or anything else that you've chosen to work with, all combined and woven in with this idea. Intent is a willful act of intention, and to properly work intent in spell work, there must always be some will or force behind it. Now, I know at this point it may seem a little bit confusing and very difficult to tap into, but I promise you, absolutely everybody is capable of working intent. And to some extent, it's something that we all actively engage with in our daily lives. Often we see this manifest in coincidences. Or have you ever just been thinking about something a lot and then it happens? These are subconscious applications of intent. And to some extent, it can be considered minor spell work depending on where you sit and how you define spell work personally. However, in most cases, it is common to define intent as a little bit more willful, focused, and intentional. So now that we've defined intent, let's talk about how to work with it. When I first began teaching the craft 4.5 years ago, I only was aware consciously of one type of working intent. And at the time, that's all I ever could find being spoken about, and that's visualization. It's something that I think all of us are taught early on, and something that continues to be the primary method of intention taught. But as I've been teaching for this long, I've come to realize that there are a lot of people that don't really engage with visualization very well, and there are other methods of intent that we often have engaged with in practice, but isn't necessarily spoken of as a method of intent. So in this time, I've identified 3 distinct forms of intent, working intent, that are kind of umbrella terms. There are a lot of different things that do fall under these terms, but they are these 3 big ideas of it. And I genuinely believe that everybody has access to at least one, if not more. And I'm sure a great many of you have access to all of them. And these 3 methods are sensation, visualization, and incantation. Visualization and incantation are the 2 that we know well. Sensation is the one that is always talked about, but I have rarely seen given a name. And most of us usually do work with 2, if not all of them, for the majority of our spells. Each of these carries a distinct perspective and a different way to work with the energy, and in time you'll find which one feels the most comfortable to you. I personally find sensing intent to be one of the most basic, though it can be a harder one to tap into initially. It is basically the physical or emotional feelings felt, that power, that energy, that almost intangible piece of spell work. Visualization is, well, visual, usually in the mind's eye, seeing what you want, an outcome, a picture, a movie, or a sight of the energy you're working. And incantation can be many things. It can be literally speaking the words, maybe singing them, saying them in your head, writing them, or drawing what you are hoping for in a spell. Anything that communicates in either written, spoken, or in the head words or images. I personally have observed visualization and incantation to be a means of focusing the energy of a spell, while the sensation, the sensed intent, is the will and power put into it. And I think everybody is capable of that one, even if they aren't fully aware that they are working with it. But like I said, these are approximations of each, individual type that I've identified, there's a lot of nuance under each one, and I also don't want to claim that there aren't any other methods of working intent. These are the ones that I have found through these years, but you never know, maybe there are some more out there that I have yet to find. So let's begin with talking about sensed intent, as it is that base piece of putting energy into spells. Sensed intent can be used alone, and it often is in simpler day-to-day practices. A lot of things that you would maybe classify as magical practice as opposed to spell work. Perhaps something like using a lavender sprig to cleanse the home by dipping it in some water, or washing your windowsills with yarrow. These are acts of magic, but they aren't very large works of spell work. But in general, these smaller acts of magic tend to be worked often solely with sensed intent. Though, of course, it can be combined with visualization or incantation, and that is a very good way to add focus and power. Additionally, if you're having trouble tapping into sensation, it can be really valuable to work with incantation or visualization to bring about that comfort and connection to it. As I noted earlier when I first introduced sensed intent, it is that force, that energy behind spell work. It can be felt as an emotion or a physical sensation, and this can be different between every spell, between different styles of magic, or different intentions. Personally, for myself, the physical sensations tend to stay about the same, but the emotional ones do shift, usually with each intention, but sometimes between spells as well. And they usually relate to how I feel about the spell I'm working or its desired outcome. So let's say I'm working on a spell for calm. While I'm working the spell, I will feel that sense of calm come over me, a physical wash of warmth and comfort, but I will also feel that emotionally. When I'm working on something that is protective, I'll feel harder. Energy radiates more. There's something strong about it. Ultimately, sensation is something that is going to be very, very unique to you, as will all of these things. And it's up to you to sit and reflect with how you tend to feel about certain things, or maybe how you desire to feel. I think working on breath work is a very useful tool in engaging with sensed intent, and engaging with the other styles of intent as well. So with that, let's start delving into those. So after sensed intent comes visualization, that one style of intent that we've all heard about over and over and over again. Like I said before, it is what its name suggests, a visual interpretation of your intent. You may visualize intent in many different ways. Maybe it's a movie in your head, a picture that you see. Maybe you see energy moving through your body into the working that you are working on. Or it could be a combination of all of these, or something entirely different. I have a very active mind's eye. I can see a lot, and I get lost in daydreams very easily. And so this is a very powerful tool of intention for myself. Some examples of what I often turn to for visualization. For a home protection, I'll often picture, say I'm doing a wash over my windows. As I put the water over the windowsill, I envision it kind of closing over the threshold, creating this impenetrable barrier, or a barrier that keeps all of the bad out and lets in only good. But when I'm working a cleansing with either a spray or a burning herb bundle, I'll visualize that spray or the smoke filling the entire home, just encasing it in this thick fog of energy, and it wipes out any darkness that it touches, cleaning out any stagnant energy and just opening this door to this welcome or empty, clear space. Or maybe it's filling it with calm. Usually I do add some other ingredients to cleanse the space of what I don't want and put in what I do want. Another example of visualization that I often use when I'm making a spell bag or a jar or something that's a physical good that I can hold. Maybe it's not something that I'm putting elsewhere. Or this is a process of crafting those spells that do apply to other places, like smoke or washes. I'll often visualize what I am desiring for the practice in the way I have just described, but I'll also visualize this energy that I'm sensing welling up in my body as I'm placing the herbs in, the energy that is within me, that is from the earth, it moves through me, through my arms, kind of twisting and into what I've created. Again, this is in my mind, but it's a powerful way for me to connect to moving the energy. There are no limits to visualization, and it's up to you whatever feels most comfortable to you or most right for the situation. Now, I know it's not an ideal application for everybody, and some people aren't able to connect to it in an easy way or at all. And if that's the case, that's completely okay. You can work instead with just sensation or incantation. So let's jump into incantation. To incant is to instruct a spell of its purpose through writing, drawing, speaking, singing, speaking words in your head, however you may normally consider an instruction to be. Personally, I find this to be one of the easiest and most accessible forms of intent for everyone, and it is also a very valuable tool of working intent, especially if you're working a spell that requires a great deal of specificity or is very important, or spells that are just large workings that require a lot of energy. There's a lot of power in words, and that should never be underestimated. Incantation is something that is mentioned throughout spellwork and throughout teachings on spellwork, but I feel that it's not very often noted as a method of working intent. It is just noted as a method of completing the spell, but it is a way to infuse that energy, and a darn good one at that. Now, it does have a catch. It is important to put energy and belief behind the words that you're saying. I think sometimes we can get caught up in saying words, not really meaning it, or not having that, as I said, belief behind it. That is a very crucial part of using incantation. You've got to believe it, or you at least have to hope for it. While I may not work with incantation very often in my craft, I do find it to be a very, very valuable application of it, and I know I've already said it, but I just would like to say it again. It's not worth underestimating, and it's something that I do recommend to everybody. So even if you're working spells that aren't calling for you to speak words, if it feels more comfortable to you, do it. It's never going to be a mistake to speak your desires. And with that, those are the 3 methods of intent. Intent is something that you won't grasp necessarily in a day. It does take time and practice and comfort. It can also shift over time. I know for myself, when I first began practicing, the idea of working spells or magic with only sensed intent seemed impossible and crazy. And now that's how I primarily engage with it, and through visualization. Take time to practice each method of intent. You can put in practice simply, working little tiny spells all day. Maybe you need a bit of courage. Speak some courage for yourself, or visualize yourself succeeding at whatever you need courage for. Maybe you need a bit of calm. Same deal. Work little simple bits of magic to engage with it, and attempt bigger spells as well. I have plenty on this page that you can work with, and just put in the practice and the amount of time that feels good. It doesn't have to be all the time, it doesn't have to be every day, just when it feels right. And pretty quickly you will get to understand how you best engage with intent, what feels comfortable to you and right for your own unique individual practice. Everybody's going to be different. That is what makes witchcraft so beautiful. And while that can seem a little bit frustrating in the beginning, that frustration is worth it. We are all beautifully unique, and that's what makes this practice so rich. So practice, practice, practice. Give it all a try. And you don't have to do everything right away. If you try something right now, doesn't feel super comfortable, come back to it later. Or you don't have to at all if it never feels right. Do what feels right to you. So once again, I'd recommend reading this chapter if you can and have it, and if you haven't already, or if you read it a while ago, it's worth reading again. There's a lot more practices in it to help you engage with these different ideas of intent, and it does go through and explain it in a written booky way. If the book's not out by the time you're seeing this, it is available for pre-order, and I will have all the links down below. If it is out, those links will still be there if you don't have it. So thank you so much for watching. If you can and would like to, I'd really appreciate it if you checked out my Patreon. There I share art, herbal profiles, book recommendations, and monthly workshops. It's what keeps things afloat over here, and I really couldn't be doing this without you guys. I also have another channel where I share more of my day-to-day life, more witchcraft, herbalism, all those fun things, so if you want to check that out as well, Both of those things will be linked down below. Thanks again for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day, and I'll see you again soon.